Right now, in this very moment, someone out there is exhausting themselves trying to be everything to everyone. Their shoulders are heavy with the weight of responsibilities they never signed up for. Their heart aches from giving pieces of themselves away until there's almost nothing left. And deep down, they're wondering if they'll ever feel whole again, that someone might be you. We've all been there, trapped in the endless cycle of overextending ourselves, of saying yes when our soul is screaming no, of trying to fix other people's lives while our own slowly unravels. It's time we had an honest conversation about the price we pay and we overplay our role in other people. Think about the last time you felt completely drained, emotionally bankrupt. Was it after spending hours counseling a friend through yet another crisis? Was it after stepping in to solve a problem that wasn't yours to solve? Was it after realizing that despite all your efforts, all your sacrifices, nothing really changed? The truth is, we've been conditioned to believe that love means never saying no, that caring means always being available, that strength means carrying everyone else's burdens. When you consistently overplay your role in other people's lives, you're not just depleting yourself, you're robbing them of their own journey, their own strength, their own growth. Let me share something profound with you. In nature, every creature knows its role. The sun doesn't try to do the moon's job. The river doesn't try to be the mountain. Yet somehow we humans have convinced ourselves that we must be everything to everyone. We've twisted the concept of love and support into something that resembles control and codependency. What if I told you that the greatest act of love isn't always stepping in? What if the most powerful way to support someone isn't by trying to fix their life? What if by constantly overplaying your role, you're actually preventing both yourself and others from experiencing true growth? You see, when we overextend ourselves in others' lives, we create an invisible prison. We become the warden, the counselor, the problem solver, the emotional crutch. And in doing so, we trap both ourselves and others in roles that stifle growth and authentic. Every time you rush in to solve someone else's problem, you're sending them a subtle message. I don't trust you to handle this. Every time you put their needs above your own basic well-being, you're telling yourself, my worth is measured by how much I can give to others. But here's the reality that might shake you to your core. Your constant availability, your endless giving, your perpetual problem solving, it's not always helping. Sometimes it's hurting. It's hurting you. It's hurting them. And it's hurting the possibility of authentic relationships built on mutual respect rather than dependency. The signs have been there all along. The chronic exhaustion that no amount of sleep seems to cure. The resentment that bubbles up when someone asks for just one more favor. The anxiety that spikes when your phone rings, wondering whose crisis you'll need to manage, the hollow feeling in your chest when you realize you can't remember the last time you did something purely for yourself. But there's hope. There's always hope. Because just as we learn these patterns, we can unlearn them. Just as we stepped into these oversized roles, we can step back into our authentic selves. The journey won't be easy. Meaningful change rarely is, but it will be worth it. What we're going to explore together isn't just about setting boundaries, though. That's part of it. It's not just about learning to say no, though. That's crucial, too. This is about something much deeper, much more fundamental. This is about reclaiming your right to be a supporter rather than a savior. It's about understanding that true love empowers rather than enables. It's about recognizing that sometimes the most caring thing you can do is step back and let others face their own challenges. As we continue this journey together, I want you to hold on to one truth. You are not responsible for other people's happiness, their choices, or their growth. You were never meant to be. Your role in others' lives should complement, not complete. And in the process of learning this, you might just discover something remarkable, that by playing your true role, rather than overplaying an assumed one, you create space for authentic connections that energize rather than drain you. This is where true transformation begins. Not with grand gestures or dramatic changes, but with a simple shift in perspective. A gentle awakening to the truth that has been within you all along. The understanding that you can love deeply without losing yourself, support others without sacrificing your soul, and make a difference without trying to control the outcome. Take a deep breath. Feel the weight of all those assumed responsibilities, all those unspoken obligations. Now imagine setting them down one by one, Not abandoning them, but rather seeing them for what they truly are. Choices. Choices that you have the power to make differently. The journey we're about to embark on isn't about becoming less caring or less compassionate. It's about becoming more authentic, more intentional, and ultimately more truly helpful in the lives of those we care about. It's about understanding that sometimes the most loving thing we can do is let people find their own way, face their own challenges, and write their own stories. Are you ready to discover what happens when you stop overplaying your role? Are you prepared to explore what true support looks like? Are you willing to consider that by doing less, you might actually be giving more? The path ahead will challenge everything you believed about what it means to care, to love, to support. But I promise you this, on the other side of this journey lies a freedom you've forgotten was possible. A way of being in relationship with others that doesn't drain you but fills you. A way of loving that doesn't diminish you but expands you. This is where we begin. Not with judgment or criticism of our past choices, but with compassion and understanding for the patterns that brought us here. And most importantly, with hope for the transformation that awaits when we finally learn to stop overplaying our roles and start living our truth. Let's talk about something that might feel uncomfortable at first. Let's talk about the addiction of being needed, because that's what it is, an addiction. The rush of being the go-to person, the satisfaction of solving someone else's problems, the identity we build around being the strong one, the reliable one, the one who never says no. It feels good, doesn't it? Until it doesn't. But here's the truth that we need to face. Being needed is not the same as being valued. Being useful is not the same as being loved. And being indispensable to others often comes at the cost of being unavailable to ourselves. Think about the relationships in your life right now. How many of them are built on genuine connection, and how many are built on dependency? How many of them would survive if you stopped playing the role of savior, problem solver, or emotional caretaker? These are hard questions, but they're questions we need to ask. The pattern usually starts innocently enough. Someone comes to us with a problem, and we help. They come again, and we help again. Soon it becomes our default role. We become invested in their struggles, convinced that without our intervention, we start to anticipate their needs, jump in before they ask, take on their emotions as our own. And before we know it, we're trapped in a role that was never meant to be ours. We're writing chapters in other people's stories while our own book gathers dust. We're solving problems that we didn't create and couldn't fix even if we tried. Here's what happens when we consistently overplay our role. We create a dynamic where others become dependent on our strengths rather than developing their own. We foster relationships built on need rather than mutual growth. We set up patterns that drain our energy and dim our light. But the most insidious effect of all, we start to believe that this is what love looks like, that sacrifice equals caring, that exhaustion is the price of being a good friend, partner, parent, or colleague. We convince ourselves that setting boundaries is selfish, that taking care of ourselves is indulgent, that saying no is cruel. The universe has a perfect balance. When we try to control outcomes that aren't ours to control, we create chaos, not just in our own lives, but in the lives of those we're trying to help. When we step into roles that weren't meant for us, we disrupt the natural order of growth and learning. Think about a butterfly emerging from its cocoon. If you try to help it by breaking open the cocoon, you'll actually prevent it from developing the strengths it needs to survive. The struggle is essential. The challenge is necessary. A process cannot be rushed or outsourced. The same is true for human growth. When we rush in to prevent others from experiencing difficulty, we rob them of the very experiences they need to develop resilience. When we consistently rescue others from the consequences of their choices, we prevent them from developing wisdom. When we carry their emotional burdens, we deny them the opportunity to build emotional strength. But I know what you're thinking. You're thinking about the people who depend on you. You're thinking about the responsibilities you've taken on. You're thinking about the potential chaos that might ensue if you step back. And these are valid concerns. But if your over-involvement is actually preventing the very growth and independence you want for others. The truth is, most people are far more capable than we give them credit for. They have resources we don't know about, strength they haven't tapped into, wisdom they haven't accessed, precisely because they haven't had to. Our constant intervention has created a comfort zone that limits their growth. So how do we begin to change this pattern? It starts with recognition. Recognition that our need to be needed might be driving our behavior more than genuine service. Recognition that our fear of others' failure might be masking our own. Recognition that our constant giving might be a way of avoiding our own growth, our own challenges, our own life. The next step is acceptance. Acceptance that we cannot and should not try to control others' journeys. Acceptance that pain, struggle, and challenge are not just inevitable parts of life, but essential components of growth. Acceptance that by trying to protect others from these experiences, we might be doing more harm than good. This doesn't mean we stop caring. It doesn't mean we become cold or distant. It means we learn to care in a way that empowers rather than enables. It means we learn to support without swooping in to rescue. It means we learn to love people enough to let them face their own challenges and develop their own strength. Every time you step back from overplaying your role, you create space. Space for others to step up. Space for natural consequences to teach what you never could. Space for authentic relationships to develop. Space for genuine growth. Both yours and theirs. This space might feel uncomfortable at first. Like any void, it might make you anxious. You might feel the urge to fill it with activity, with advice, with intervention. Resist this urge. Learn to sit with the discomfort. Learn to trust the process. Learn to believe in the capacity of others to handle their own lives, which you'll discover is something remarkable. As you stop overplaying your role, you'll start finding your true role. As you release the need to control others' journeys, you'll gain more control over your own. As you let go of being everything to everyone, you'll become more of who you were meant to be. This is where true transformation begins to take root. In the space between doing too much and doing nothing. In the balance between caring deeply and maintaining healthy boundaries. In the wisdom to know when to step in and when to step back. The path forward isn't about abandoning your caring nature. It's about channeling it in a way that serves both you and others. It's about understanding that true support often looks different than we've been conditioned to believe. It's about learning that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is nothing at all. There comes a moment in every journey of transformation when understanding must become action, when knowing better must become doing better. That moment is now. Let's talk about how we begin to shift from overplaying our roles to living our truth. The first step is radical honesty with ourselves. We need to look at our patterns of overgiving with clear eyes and an open heart. What are we really seeking when we rush to solve others' problems? What void are we trying to fill when we make ourselves indispensable? What fear drives us to take on responsibilities that aren't ours? For many of us, the answer lies in our deepest insecurities. We overplay our roles because we believe that's what makes us valuable. We've built our sense of worth on being needed, our identity on being the strong one, our purpose on fixing others' lives. But here's the liberating truths. You are worthy simply because you exist. Your value doesn't depend on what you do for others. Your purpose isn't to be anyone's savior. Consider this profound reality. Every time you overplay your role in someone's life, you're acting from a place of fear rather than love. Fear that you're not enough just as you are. Fear that others won't love you if you stop giving so much. Fear that everything will fall apart if you step back. But true love, for yourself and others, requires trust. Trust in others' capacity to handle their own challenges. Trust in the natural process of growth and learning. Trust in the wisdom of allowing people to walk their own path, even when that path includes struggle and pain. Redefining support. Real support isn't about taking away someone's struggles. It's about believing in their ability to handle those struggles. It's not about fixing their problems. It's about being present while they find their own solutions. It's not about carrying their emotional burden. It's about creating a space where they can safely feel their own emotions. Think about how different your relationships would be if you approached them with this mindset. Instead of jumping in with solutions, what if you asked powerful questions? Instead of taking responsibility for others' happiness, what if you focused on being authentically present? Instead of trying to prevent pain, what if you helped others build resilience? The third step is learning to recognize the difference between helping and enabling. Helping empowers. Enabling weakens. Helping is temporary. Enabling creates dependency. Helping respects boundaries. Enabling blurs them. When we consistently do for others what they could do for themselves, we're not helping, we're hindering their growth. This is where many of us get stuck. We become so accustomed to overgiving that normal giving feels inadequate. We've confused sacrifice with love for so long that healthy boundaries feel selfish. We've played the role of savior for so long that being simply human feels like failure. But here's what happens when you begin to right-size your role in others' lives. Energy you didn't know you had starts to return. Relationships begin to shift from dependency to mutual respect. People in your life start developing their own strength, finding their own solutions, standing on their own feet. You begin to discover who you are beyond your roles. You start to hear your own inner voice. Perhaps for the first time in years, you begin to dream your own dreams, pursue your own interests, live your own life rather than living through others. This journey requires courage. The courage to disappoint people who have come to expect too much. The courage to sit with discomfort when others struggle. The courage to trust that stepping back isn't abandonment. It's love in its most mature form. There will be resistance. People who have grown accustomed to your overgiving might react with confusion, anger, or manipulation when you begin to change. They might accuse you of being selfish, of not caring enough, of changing in ways they don't like. This is normal. It's also temporary. When you stop overplaying your role, you create space for new dynamics to emerge. Initially, this space might feel like a void. It might trigger anxiety, guilt, or uncertainty. But if you can stay steady through this transition, something beautiful begins to happen. Others start stepping into their own power. They begin solving their own problems, managing their own emotions, finding their own way. Not because you forced them to, but because you finally gave them the space to do so. This is where the real magic of transformation happens. In the space between who you used to be and who you're becoming. In the pause between someone's request and your response. In the moment when you choose to trust rather than control, to support rather than rescue, to love without losing yourself. As you continue this journey, pay attention to the subtle shifts. Notice how your energy changes when you stop carrying everyone else's emotional baggage. Observe how your relationships evolve when you show up as a supporter rather than a savior. Watch what happens when you give others the gift of believing in their capacity to handle their own life. The path forward isn't about becoming less caring. It's about caring in a way that honors both yourself and others. It's about understanding that true support often means doing less rather than more. It's about recognizing that the most powerful gift you can give someone is the space to grow, learn, and become who they're meant to be. This is your invitation to step back from roles that drain you and step into authenticity that sustains you. To release the burden of being everything to everyone and discover the joy of being truly yourself. To stop overplaying your part in others' stories and start fully living your own. Every time you resist the urge to rescue, you offer the gift of growth. Every time you maintain a healthy boundary, you model self-respect. Every time you let others face their own challenges, you express profound trust in their capacity to handle life on their own terms. There's a profound shift that occurs when you finally understand that overplaying your role isn't just exhausting, it's unnecessary. When you realize that the world won't fall apart if you step. When you discover that others are far more capable than you've given them credit for. This is where true liberation begins. Let's talk about what happens in the space that opens up when you stop overextending yourself. First, there's the return of energy. Not just physical energy, but emotional and spiritual energy. You'll find yourself waking up without that heavy feeling of responsibility for everyone else's well-being. You'll discover pockets of joy in unexpected moments. You'll remember what it feels like to be light. But something even more remarkable happens. You start to see others differently. Without the filter of constant responsibility, you begin to appreciate people for who they are rather than for what they need from you. You start to enjoy relationships rather than manage them. You begin to love people without trying to fix them. This is where many of us have gotten it backward. We thought that by doing more, giving more, being more, we were expressing love. But true love doesn't seek to control or fix. True love honors the journey of others respects their right to make their own choices, and trusts in their inherent capacity to grow? Think about how this applies to your own life. How many times have you jumped in to solve a problem that wasn't yours to solve? How often have you taken on emotional burdens that belong to someone else? How frequently have you sacrificed your own well-being in the name of being helpful? The truth is, when we consistently overplay our roles, we create a cycle of dependency that serves no one. We exhaust ourselves while preventing others from developing their own strength. We burn out while denying others the opportunity to learn from their own experiences. We lose ourselves while robbing others of their right to find themselves. But here's what happens when you begin to right-size your role. You create space for authentic connections to develop. When you're no longer the savior, the fixer, the constant problem solver, you can become something far more valuable, a genuine presence in others' lives. Someone who can listen without trying to fix. Someone who can support without trying to control. Someone who can love without trying to change. This shift isn't just about what you stop doing. It's about what you start experiencing. When you're no longer consumed by everyone else's drama, you have energy for your own growth. When you're no longer carrying everyone else's emotional baggage, you can explore your own feelings. When you're no longer living through others' experiences, you can fully inhabit your own life. The transformation goes even deeper. As you stop overplaying your role, you begin to discover parts of yourself that have been dormant, interests you've neglected, dreams you've put aside, aspects of your personality that have been overshadowed by your need to be needed. This is where many people experience a kind of awakening. They realize that beneath all the roles they've been playing, there's a whole person waiting to emerge. Someone with their own desires, their own boundaries, their own way of being in the world. What would your life look like if you weren't constantly available to everyone else? What would you do with your time if you weren't always solving other people's problems? Who would you be if you weren't defined by what you do for others? These questions might feel uncomfortable at first. They might even trigger fear or guilt, but stay with them. Because in these questions lies the key to your freedom, the path to reclaiming your life. The route to authentic relationships that energize rather than drain you. As you continue this journey, you'll notice subtle but significant changes in your relationships. People who genuinely care about you will adjust to the new boundaries you set. They might even respect you more for honoring your own needs. But those who were only interested in what you could do for them might drift away. And that's okay. It's part of the natural clearing that happens when you stop overplaying your role. What emerges is a new way of being in relationship with others. One where you can be present without being responsible. Where you can care deeply without carrying burdens that aren't yours. Where you can love freely without losing yourself. This is where the real magic happens. In the space between giving too much and giving up. In the balance between caring for others and caring for yourself. In the wisdom to know that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step back and let others find their own way. Every time you resist the urge to rescue someone, you're saying yes to their growth. Every time you maintain a healthy boundary, you're modeling self-respect. Every time you let someone face their own challenges, you're expressing faith in their capacity to handle life. The journey from overplaying your role to living authentically isn't always easy. There will be moments of doubt, times when old patterns try to reassert themselves, situations that test your new boundaries. But with each choice to honor your true role rather than overplay and assume one, you become stronger. More centered, more authentically yourself. What you're doing isn't just changing behavior. You're shifting consciousness, moving from a paradigm of control to one of trust, from fixing to supporting, from exhaustion to energy, from losing yourself in others' lives to fully living your own. This is your invitation to a new way of being, one where you can love without losing yourself, support without sacrificing your soul, care deeply without carrying burdens that aren't yours to carry. This is your chance to discover what becomes possible when you stop overplaying your role and start living your truth. As we come to this moment of completion, let's talk about what happens when you finally embrace your true role in life, not the role others assign to you, not the role you assumed out of fear or obligation, but your authentic role, the one that allows you to be fully present without being completely consumed. The truth is, this journey of stopping yourself from overplaying your role isn't just about setting boundaries or learning to say no. It's about something far more profound. It's about reclaiming your birthright to be fully, authentically yourself. It's about understanding that you don't have to earn your place in the world by constantly doing for others. Think about what brings you to this moment. The exhaustion of carrying everyone else's burdens. The resentment that builds when you give more than you have to give. The quiet desperation of losing yourself in the process of trying to be everything to everyone. These aren't just symptoms of overgiving. They're wake-up calls from your soul. Your soul knows that you were never meant to be the solution to everyone else's problems. You were never designed to be the constant rescuer, the perpetual problem solver, the endless emotional support system. These roles you've taken on, they're not your destiny. They're habits, patterns, choices. When you begin to step back from overplaying your role, something miraculous happens. The universe doesn't collapse. People don't fall apart. In fact, quite the opposite occurs. Space opens up, space for growth, for authentic connection, for real space for others to discover their own strength, to face their own challenges, to live their own lives. This is where true power lies. Not in controlling outcomes or managing others' lives, but in trusting the natural order of things, trusting that everyone has their own path to walk, trusting that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. Every time you overplay your role in someone's life, you're acting from a place of fear rather than faith. Fear that they can't handle their own challenges. Fear that you're not enough without your helping role. Fear that love means never letting others struggle. But what if the opposite is true? What if real love means trusting enough to let go? What if true support means believing in others' capacity to handle their own lives? What if genuine caring means respecting others' right to their own journey, including their right to make mistakes, face challenges, and learn from their own experiences? This is where transformation takes root. And the courage to trust rather than control, in the wisdom to support without rescuing, in the strength to love without losing yourself. This is where you begin to discover who you are beyond your roles, beyond your responsibilities, beyond your constant doing for others. The path forward isn't about becoming less caring. It's about caring in a way that honors both yourself and others. It's about understanding that true support often means doing less rather than more. It's about recognizing that the most powerful gift you can give someone is the space to grow, learn, and become who they're meant to be. As you continue this journey, remember this: every time you resist the urge to rescue, you offer the gift of growth. Every time you maintain a healthy boundary, you model self-respect. Every time you let others face their own challenges, you express profound trust in their capacity to handle life. Your relationships will change. They must change. Some people won't understand your transformation. They might resist, manipulate, or try to pull you back into old patterns. But hold steady. Because as you continue to right-size your role in others' lives, something remarkable happens. You create space for authentic connections to develop. Relationships based on mutual respect rather than dependency. Love that empowers rather than enables. This is your moment of choice. Will you continue to exhaust yourself trying to be everything to everyone? Or will you have the courage to step back into your true role, the role of being authentically, unapologetically yourself? The world doesn't need more martyrs sacrificing themselves on the altar of endless giving. It needs whole, healthy individuals who understand that true service comes from a place of fullness, not depletion. It needs people who recognize that sometimes the most powerful way to help others is to stop helping so much. Your journey forward starts with a single choice, one moment where you choose differently, where instead of rushing in to fix, you pause. Instead of taking on someone else's burden, you hold space. Instead of losing yourself in someone else's story, you stay centered in your own truth. This choice will feel uncomfortable at first. You might feel guilty, selfish, or afraid. These feelings are normal. They're the withdrawal symptoms of letting go of the addiction to being needed. But keep going. Because on the other side of this discomfort lies a freedom you've forgotten was possible. Imagine waking up each morning feeling light, energized, and fully present in your own life. Imagine relationships that energize rather than drain you. Imagine loving others without losing yourself in the process. This isn't just a dream. It's what becomes possible when you stop overplaying your role and start living your truth. The time has come to release the weight of responsibilities that were never yours to carry, to trust in others' capacity to handle their own lives, to believe that you are enough just as you are without having to constantly prove your worth through endless giving. Your worth isn't measured by how much you do for others. Your value doesn't depend on how many problems you solve. Your purpose isn't to be anyone's savior. You are worthy simply because you exist. You are valuable simply because you are enough exactly as you are. This is your invitation to freedom. Freedom from the exhaustion of trying to be everything to everyone. Freedom from the weight of carrying burdens that aren't yours to carry. Freedom to be fully, authentically yourself. Step into this freedom. Trust in this transformation. Believe in the power of playing your true role rather than overplaying an assumed one. Because when you do, you don't just change your own life, you give others permission to change theirs too. The journey ahead isn't about becoming someone different. It's about returning to who you've always been beneath all the roles and responsibilities. It's about remembering that you don't have to earn your place in the world by constantly doing for others. You already belong exactly as you are. This is where real life begins. Not in the endless doing, but in the courage to simply be. Not in the constant giving, but in the wisdom to know when to step back. Not in the perpetual fixing, but in the trust that everyone has their own path to walk. Your time of overplaying your role is over. Your season of authentic living is just beginning. Step into it with courage, trust, and the profound knowing that you are enough exactly as you are. The world doesn't need you to be everything to everyone. It just needs you to be authentically, unapologetically yourself. This is your moment. This is your freedom. This is your truth. Embrace it